Why do straight A students hit a wall when they get to organic chemistry? It's not a lack of intelligence, it is not a lack of effort, it's because they're using a map to the wrong city. Today, I'm going to show you the survival guide that the top 1% of my students use to get an A in the hardest class on campus. It starts with one thing that your professor might assume you were born with: spatial literacy. Way too many organic chemistry professors assume that you can look at a 2D drawing and see a 3D molecule. They're going to expect you to take carbon-3 and rotate it to the back to draw a different type of structure. Now, my advice, get a molecular model kit and use it. It's going to change this from 10 steps of mental gymnastics to building a molecular model and rotating it. Step 2 is less reading, more practicing. Treat organic chemistry like a sport, not like a history class. You are not going to become the next great basketball star by reading a physics textbook about how to throw a great curveball. You need to practice. Do the end of chapter practice problems until your hands cramp. Find whatever practice problems you can get your hands on, and then use the textbook and other reference materials like my videos to target your studying. Target your studying to what you don't know. My role is don't practice until you get it right, practice until you can't get it wrong. That is when you're ready for your exam. Step 3 is less memorizing, more dissecting. If you find yourself trying to memorize a list of 50 random reagents, you have already lost. The A students don't memorize. They dissect those names with a scalpel. So take a scary looking name like lithium triethyl borohydride. Most students will panic and gloss over this, but a top student dissects it. Lithium, that's a lithium cation. Triethyl, there are 3 ethyl groups. Boro, there's a boron somewhere. And hydride, that IDE suffix, means our hydrogen has a negative charge. Suddenly, this is not a scary name. It is something that you can study and dissect. You are no longer memorizing what this mouthful of a name means, but you're using it as a map to figure out what the elements are and where the electrons are. Step 4, office hours. Come early and come often. Way too many students treat office hours like a last resort, but the A students will be visiting me multiple times in the first few weeks. They will be coming to clarify some little nuance. They will be fixing the leak before they sink the ship. But everyone else will wait until the week of the first exam. And there's this line out my door, and I have to talk like an auctioneer to get through everyone.
It can still occur at the secondary carbon, meaning 2 other carbons attached to it, but it's not going to occur in a primary or methyl carbon, because that carbocation will not form.
By then, that tiny week 1 confusion has snowballed into a week 4 disaster, and you have to wait in line. Don't wait in that line. Come to my office hours early and often. Stop asking, how do I know? And start asking, which path wins? Most organic chemistry students get paralyzed because they are racking their brains trying to figure out how the molecules are going to react. But here's the truth. You don't automatically know. You have to look at the possibilities. If you have 2 possible pathways and you don't know what happens, draw both. Look at the intermediates. Your role is to be a judge who decides which intermediates are the most stable, not a psychic who magically predicts the outcome. Organic chemistry is not a guessing game, it's a competition. Draw the possibilities, look at the stabilities, and the winner will reveal itself. The note card method. Build the perfect cheat sheet that you aren't allowed to use. Every time that I tell a class that they can handwrite anything they want on one tiny little note card and bring it into an exam, the average grade jumps up by a letter grade. But here's the kicker. During the exam, people aren't actually looking at their cards all that much. The magic is not in the card. It's in the editorial process. To fit an entire unit of information on one tiny little piece of paper, you have to prioritize. You have to decide what is fluff. You have to do so much cognitive load that you are studying very effectively just to make that card. So my advice is to make the perfect note card cheat sheet, then leave it at home. The Feynman technique is used to make the logic your own. If you can't explain SN2's backside attack to a 12-year-old or to a cat, you don't really understand it. You are just reciting a script. The Feynman technique is when you try to explain a topic to a child or a cat. Use simple language. Avoid confusing terms. If you get stuck, that's a gap in your knowledge. Go back, review that specific gap, and try explaining it again. When you get your cat to understand SN2's backside attack, that is when you're ready for the exam. Start building your toolkit today. The all-time top 1% of my students didn't necessarily have the strongest science backgrounds. What they started with was a drive to get the foundations down today. If I spend the first week of the course drilling in line structures or general chemistry basics, it's not so that you can play catch-up. It's because you simply cannot perform at a higher level without those fundamentals locked in. The absolute best thing that you can do for your future self right now is to make sure that you know the language of organic chemistry before your next exam hits. I've put together a playlist to help you with just that.